Hi, IndyCar fans and Pacer fans. We're here in the Dex Imaging Media Center at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I'm Christopher DeHarde. He's Donohue, and we're here from Frontstretch.com. Let's do all the social media stuff right now. Facebook, Twitter, Twitter. We don't care about Elon Musk's whatever thing. Instagram, Frontstretch. I think it's FS Open Wheel on Twitter as well, and the Frontstretch Open Wheel on YouTube. If you know how to use a keyboard, you know where to find us. But Tony, that was a very interesting qualifying weekend here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What do you think?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this format that we've seen over the last couple of years. I think last year was the first time we see them go to the top 12 format and then kind of include what they do on the road courses with the Firestone Fast Six. It made for drama and made for speed. And the timing is right for the most part, right? The Pacer game was going on today, but the timing was right for that top six shootout. We saw some shade over the racetrack. I think that made for some faster speeds. This afternoon, Scotty McLaughlin with his first career Indianapolis 500 pole. His best qualifying effort at the 500 was 14th last year. Obviously best that with a pole today. Penske front row sweep with Will Power second, Joseph Newgarden, your defending Indianapolis 500 winner, rolling off from the third position. But a lot of drama that came in the back row shootout as well, with four drivers going for three spots. So certainly an entertaining day here from IMS.
100%. We'll go through the entire starting field, but just to quickly touch on the front row, Team Penske swept the front row in 1988. In 1989, there was Penske chassis that swept the front row, but it was Patrick Racing that started third that year with Emerson Fittipaldi. McLaughlin on the pole, Will Power in second, where he started when he won the race in 2018, and then Joseph Newgarden third again in a car very similar to what he won the race with last year. Great job by the team. I guess the B guys or the B team is better than the A team, I guess, not Tony?
Yeah, and I think it's refreshing for Team Penske. Obviously, the last month or so since the push the pass incident with in St. Pete and the enforcement that came down, taking away the win, taking away the podium finish for Scott McLaughlin. Look, I think they wanted to get to Indy. They wanted to hit the reset button and kind of just make this
another button.
Yeah, another button. Take this and make this the next step moving forward to kind of drop that, get that past you, and get to Indy. Look, obviously, I'm sure they're missing guys like Tim Cindric, but and I think what needs to be mentioned as well is the partnership coming back this year with AJ Foyt Racing. This is the first time they've been at Indy. Colton Hurd had a great quote. That's a cheap way to hire Michael Cannon. But look, it's one of those things that we've seen Penske not really qualify that well over the last couple of years here at the Indianapolis 500. So you can say these are massive strides, right? Because they finished, I think they qualified 15th on back last year. Yes. This is massive strides, but it's also Team Penske. So if there's a team that can right the ship quickly and get things turned around, especially here in Indianapolis, the race that everybody pays the most attention to and massages on a car for 364 days out of the year, to get primed and ready for a weekend like this. That was great. Congratulations to Team Penske, Scotty Mack on the pole. Is this his first career oval pole, I believe?
Might be. I kind of want to go back to one thing you mentioned about Michael Cannon. So to kind of give everybody a bit of a clue on who Michael Cannon is, he worked for Team Forsyth way back in the day. He worked for Dale Coyne Racing for many years. I'm sure a lot of y'all that have seen clips of the Indy 500 on the internet saw Sebastian Bourdais crash from 2017 when he crashed in qualifying. Michael Cannon was on Dale Coyne Racing's engineering staff that year, although Craig Hampson was the primary engineer on that car.
Which was a pole run, by the way.
Yes, he would have. Well, actually, was that Saturday or Sunday?
But he was tracking to be P1 at the time.
Yeah. That would have been such a great run for Bourdais. But I digress. Cannon, after a couple of years there, he left for Chip Ganassi Racing. I think he left there for the 2020 season, if my memory is correct. And when you know it, first year with Scott Dixon, he wins the championship and a bunch of races. Pretty good engineer. But he goes to AJ Foyt Racing, and Santino Ferrucci finished, third last year. It was very easy to see what his effect was on that team. And then Team Penske decided and AJ Foyt Racing collaborated on a technical partnership. And hey, Michael Cannon has not become a big part of that, much to Colton Hurd's chagrin, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and again, I mean, this is history repeating itself from 1988, as we mentioned the last time. They locked out the front row. Obviously, that's where you want to start. You want to start up front. You can basically, we learned this last year in the race, it's hard to pass from that fourth car in line all back. So,
Yes.
I mean, I think if you're Team Penske, the strategy going in is, look, let's just stay 1, 2, and 3 throughout the entire race, and then we'll battle it out for that last 10-lap stretch when you get to lap 190. Obviously, these are 3 of the best pit crews in the series as well for Team Penske. That's going to be huge on race day. It was kind of weird today to not have a Ganassi car out there. We've seen the dominance that they've had on pole weekend. Didn't see any Ganassi cars today. Obviously, they're starting 13th on back. But let's get to that last row shootout. You know, we were feeling deja vu all over again with Graham Rahal, and a driver that just hasn't been able to seem to figure it out over the last 2 years when it comes to qualifying. And he was right there on the bubble. Then Marcus Ericsson totally admitted to it, made a mistake, thought the checkered flag was waving, so to speak, lifts, and oh crap, this is actually lap 4. I haven't gone back and watched the tape. I had a couple people text me and say, wait a minute, it seemed like NBC may have miscounted what was going on there.
They did. So what happened, first of all, there was a lot of things that went wrong. Timing and scoring had Marcus's first lap as a 2:30.9, which was true. They had the warm-up lap on the screens in the media center, then they had the 2:30.9 first lap. His second lap was 2:30.533. His third lap was 2:30.433. After the pit, crew on the pit wall said, white flag, that's when Ericsson lifted. So Ericsson, much like Tom Brady, miscounted to 4. Sorry, I had to say that. That was just for my own satisfaction. But what is also strange was NBC also miscounted the laps as well. They never showed on the broadcast the 2:30.9 first lap. They thought the 2:30.5 lap was the first lap and that the 2:30.4 lap was the second lap. It was really weird how that whole situation played out because I thought there was a timing and scoring screen, or at least the IndyCar app there as well. But then again, no one's perfect. Sometimes these kind of glitches do happen.
Yeah.
But it was really, really strange to see Ericsson lift like that because everyone keeps talking about 4 laps. This isn't the first time he's done this race. He's been here since 2019. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Done 5 qualifying attempts for the Indy 500. This one was for his 6th time in the race. So, it's something that doesn't really leave your memory because when you go 230 plus miles an hour around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you tend to not forget that.
Yeah. And
everything around it should kind of be ingrained in your memory. But then again, we are human beings. Human beings make mistakes. And sometimes, just putting it bluntly, stuff happens, to censor myself. But Ericsson did go out again. He qualified. Actually, we have the starting lineup right here.
Well, and before we move on to that, look, it was one of those things where, timing and scoring, correlation with NBC, I don't think had anything to do with Marcus in the cockpit.
Yeah.
I do feel, and he said this when I talked to him, and we have the quote here on Frontstretch because we posted it earlier. He said, look, I just made a mistake. Look, you got Ziggy Harkis on his box. This is a guy who's been around. He's won the Indianapolis 500. He knows what he's doing, right? Same with Marcus Ericsson. Sometimes just the intensity of the moment and the magnitude of the situation. You come over to Andretti. You finished 2nd in the 500 last year. You won the 500 2 years ago. There's just so much going on in your brain. I asked a couple drivers today as well. When you're coming down that front straightaway, are you aware when the flagman is waving the flag of what flag that is? And every driver told me, you don't really pay attention. And sometimes you're just so focused in the zone and focused on what's in front of you that those mistakes happen. It was unfortunate. Fortunately for Marcus Ericsson, he's in the show. And then Nolan Siegel goes out, keeps his foot in it, ends up in the wall. The 19-year-old rookie has crashed twice this week. But you had an incredible quote from the 19-year-old rookie.
First of all, it's twice in 72 hours. Because he crashed on Friday coming out of turn 2, and the car flipped upside down. It landed on the roll hoop and the side pod. I think it was the left side pod that it landed on. And for him to come back from that on Saturday in a road course tub, and, he had a lot of downforce on the car, but he still kept his foot in it for the most part. And then Sunday to come back again and try it again. He unfortunately had another crash on his qualifying run, and in the media center, he had a post-qualifying availability, and in the first answer he gave, one of the quotes he said was, "I didn't go home because I lifted." So, yeah, everybody in the grandstands had a massive amount of respect for what he did. It's not easy for a teenager to go out there and do that. Yes, teenagers have qualified for the Indy 500 before. Marco Andretti did it back in 2006, just as an example.
Colton Herta.
Yeah, Colton Herta as well. Although I feel so bad for Colton because of everything that has happened to him during the race. But hey, at least Colton's doing well in qualifying. But I digress. Back to Nolan earlier. He was basically in an impossible situation in a tub or in a car that was basically road course based, with not every body panel was going to fit that tub exactly. The team worked very hard to get it to fit as best as they could, and to get Nolan comfortable. The good thing though is about Dale Coyne Racing is every single person that I talked to, whether it was a mechanic or engineer or anybody, everybody had a massive amount of trust and faith, and they all believed in Nolan Siegel and his abilities and his ability to soak up information. He'll be back.
Yeah, so I've actually worked with Nolan Siegel multiple times so I've spotted for him in USF 2000. I spotted for him last year in Indy Next. I can't believe he's 19. He still looks like he's 12 when I first met him. He's got talent, and I think, as you mentioned, he gained a lot of respect today. This is a name. Graham Rahal said it best in the post-race interviews, as you mentioned. He said, this is a kid who's going to win races in this series. This is a kid we're going to hear from moving forward. He's chasing an Indy Next championship right now. He still has a couple more races in IndyCar this year.
Yep.
It's unfortunate, but as I told him on Friday, and I told Linus Lundqvist, also a rookie this year, I said, look, there's drivers that have hit the wall at Indy, and there's drivers that will hit the wall in Indy. Unfortunately for Nolan, it happened twice. But the stones that he showed at 19 years old to say, all right, Marcus Ericsson just knocked us out of the show, put that wicker down as fast as we can go, and he kept his foot in it, went for it. Unfortunately, ended up in the wall. Wasn't as hard of an impact as we saw the other day. But Graham Rahal's in. That back row with Catherine Legg and Marcus Ericsson is interesting. And now we have it. We have the full field for the 33 drivers with 108 500. And we got 2 practice sessions, Chris, this week to get through. What are you expecting?
Hopefully no more incidents. We don't need that. We don't need drivers to have to deal with, new tubs or having mechanics working extra hours. Granted, the mechanics are going to work a lot of hours in the first place, but you don't need to be rebuilding new cars, especially at this point. Hopefully clean running. I haven't checked the forecast yet. Hopefully clean forecast. We've had a lot of
I'll check it for you. Here we go.
Thanks. I'll tell you what, while you check it, let me go over, I'm going to go over the last row real quick. Catherine Legg qualified 31st, Marcus Ericsson 32nd, Graham Rahal 33rd. Just a couple more things about the last row shootout. Catherine Legg's car, that was sketchy. The fact that she kept her foot in it as much as she did, massive amount of respect to her. Marcus did do another run to get 32nd. Graham, they had so many issues in the earlier practice session today. I don't know how they got everything figured out enough, but I think we all knew going into the day there was going to be a mountain to climb for Nolan Siegel. It was just a matter of let's make it at least safe enough to get Graham into the field. That's priority number 1. So that's the last row. You got a forecast update?
Oh, yeah, 79 and sunny for race day. Sunny most of the week except for Wednesday. I'm going to quickly walk through the Marcus Ericsson situation.
Do that.
I know that we mentioned that he had backed off the throttle, right? So what happens is you only have a certain amount of time that they give you that you can make your qualifying run to get into the show before the quote-unquote gun goes off.
Yes.
And you have to cool down the engine, okay? Because if you go out there with the hot engine, as we know, it's going to be slower. They were doing everything. They weren't starting it, but they had the starter in to try to get water circulated, cool the temperature down, get the coolants in there. Meanwhile, Marcus Ericsson sitting in the car baking. I'm a big Marcus Ericsson fan, and, for him to, it's an unfortunate circumstance that he was in. He wrecked earlier this week, was the second incident of the week coming off of corner number 4, was running into a pack, hit the wall, hit the inside wall, and then the attenuator, had to go to a backup car. I asked him, and it's on Frontstretch, so be sure to check out the Marcus Ericsson interview. I said to him, are you just ready to get in the race mode and put the last 51 weeks behind you, right? Because last year at the Indianapolis 500, a lot of people, including myself, thought it was a little bit iffy and how they took that race away from him. which is obviously the precedent they're going to set here. I broke this during the test that the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, IndyCar, they want to make sure that there is a green flag finish, and they will do anything that they can to ensure that that there will be a green flag finish, as Chris we saw last year, and saying, hey, go right out of the pits and come around for the green flag, which I don't think we've ever seen before.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, certainly not here. So kudos to Marcus Ericsson as well. And the field is full. Let's hope for 2 clean practices on Monday and Friday. And we'll be ready to get after it next Sunday for the 108th Indianapolis 500.
Looking forward to it. So just to go over the first 10 rows really briefly, as we mentioned earlier, Scott McLaughlin on pole, Will Power second, Joseph Newgarden third. Row 2, Alexander Rossi, Kyle Larson. Interesting. Yeah, Larson did good.
He told me he did not want to start in the middle of a row, and yet he is.
Sorry, bud. Santino Ferrucci in 6th, Renus VK 7th. That's another great story. We can mention that after we get through the rest of the field. Pato Award 8th, Felix Rosenquist 9th, Takuma Sato 10th, Kyle Kirkwood 11th, Ryan Hunter-Reay in 12th. Great job by him on Saturday.
I think that was a surprise. I think knowing Kirkwood kind of probably got into the top 12 with the draw that he had started on Friday night with the draw and being one of the first 5 drivers to go out.
He was the first driver.
The first driver to go out.
Thanks, Carlos. He was the one that drew for Kirkwood.
Yeah, Kirkwood. So he was the first to go out. I think Ryan Hunter-Reay also. Well, he had a late run at the end of the day. Sato being in there, I think, is very impressive. Kyle Larson obviously being in there, very impressive. Ryan Hunter-Reay was probably the surprise of the top 12. And Kyle Larson, that's huge. That is mega. Obviously, after the issues they had in the gearboxes yesterday as well, throughout really the entire Chevy stable, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think any of those drivers, those are positions you can win in. And like you mentioned, huge for Renus VK to go back out after he mangled the car, keep his foot in it, get himself into that top 12, and now he will have his worst start in his career at the Indianapolis 500, starting 7th. Good problem to have.
Yeah. So to give y'all an idea, his first Indy 500, he started 4th. In the next Indy 500s that he's done, he started 3rd, and 2nd. Yes, I memorized those statistics last night while writing my Renus VK article, which is on Frontstretch, about how he went through and did his effort. He was in 29th. He went from the first lane in the qualifying on Saturday, which when you go out from that lane, you, in a sense, delete your time. That's the penalty of going in lane 1. Lane 1 means you get to go out whenever you're first in line, ahead of lane 2, but you lose your qualifying time. VK was 29th. Had he crashed, he would have been in the last row shootout, well, the last position group shootout, I guess we could say, because it would have been 5 cars going for 4 spots. But instead of being in 29th and safe, Ed Carpenter Racing team president Tim Broyles made the call to withdraw the time, put VK back out there, and he qualified 11th Saturday, and then turned in the 7th fastest lap in today's running. To go through the field a little bit further, Colton Herta, 13th, Alex Palou, the defending IndyCar Series champion and 2021 Indy 500 runner-up, and defending Indy 500 pole sitter, is 14th.
The highest qualified Ganassi car.
Crazy. I never thought I would see that. Callum Ilott, 15th. Great run for him in his final race this year so far for Aaron McLaren. I mean, let's face it, anything can happen. Marcus Armstrong, 16th. Ed Carpenter, 17th for his eponymously named team. Kevin Simpson, 18th. Really impressed with the fact that he got that high because, I mean, let's face it, he threw himself into the deep end going into IndyCar after, what was it, just one and a half seasons of Indy next at the most? Did he do 2 or just 1?
He did 1. Yeah, it's a kid I worked with last summer, and what I learned about him was he is very smooth. And I talked to Taylor Kyle when this announcement came, who obviously big time over at Chip Ganassi Racing, and I said, what are the expectations for Kid from this year? And he goes, look, just continue to learn. There's still going to be so many people in that room you can learn from, and he has. And I think that's an impressive run to start 18th. He is very smooth, and I think for Kid Simpsons, it's literally just let's go out. Let's make sure that we get 500 miles in the book and see what happens from there.
It's one of the first things that all of us were taught as kids was you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You better do a hell of a lot more listening than you do talking. 19th, Marco Andretti. 20th, Elliot Castroneves. 21st, Scott Dixon. Incredible row there. And row 7. And then we get to row 8 when you talk about a complete opposite in terms of experience.
Let me stop you real quick.
Go for it.
And we'll have to get this. But I look at this row with Marco, Elio, and Scott Dixon, and I know we can go back to probably the 91 front row, but I'm fascinated to find out where that row stacks up in history for the most starts in one row, right? So you go back to 91, you had Rick Mears. Foyt was making his, I think, 34th start at the time. But you go back, you look at Mark. That's got to be one of the most experienced rows for starting the Indianapolis 500 of all time.
I would agree with that. The only other row that comes to mind quickly, and I only say this because I watched this race a lot on the old VHS player as a kid. In 1992, I think it was row number 9 that year. You had Allenshire Sr., AJ Foyt, and Buddy Lazier.
Not Buddy.
Well, but it was Buddy.
But he only had one start
at the time. Yes, but going through like a total career start.
This is like 24, 22, and 21, correct? Or 21, 20. Marco's first was 05. Dixon's was 03.
06.
Or 06, yeah, and then Elio was 01. So
yeah, if you look at total career Indy 500 starts, I would say it might come close. I mean, not at the time, obviously, because Buddy was in his second race, but still. But I digress. And then you look at the complete opposite in the 8th row. Augustine Canapino in 22nd. This is his second 500. Stingray Robb, same thing. Christian Rasmussen is a rookie in 24th. Hey, kept it out of the fence. Did a great job to qualify. Unfortunately, had one of those Chevrolet Plenum events, but they supposedly did a lot of work last night to try and figure out what the issue was. Haven't heard what exactly they found, but I guess it was good enough to get a complete sweep of the top 8 spots in the field so far. Moving on.
Highest starting Honda is Felix in 9th.
Wild. Row number 9, Tom Blomqvist, Roman Grosjean, and Linus Lundqvist, who we mentioned earlier had the accident on Thursday. Great job for him to avoid the 10th row. 28th is Christian Lundgaard, then Connor Daly and Pietro Fittipaldi. Rail Lemon Lanigan Racing. It's really weird how like Sato is so far up, and then you got Christian and Pietro just barely avoiding the last row shootout. Experience matters here, and Sato has quite a lot of it at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, but if that's your argument on it, I mean, Graham Rahal's got more experience than Sato has here. So I thought it was interesting the fact that, Graham was like, look, I know Sato's got the new engine and new chassis, but, like, why aren't we finding the speed that he has? And we saw that run that got Sato into the top 12. I mean, he hung it out. I mean, no attack, no chance. He about put it in the wall 3 different times, kept his foot in it.
You have to.
This race is 100% more interesting when Takuma Sato's in it. It's 1,000% more interesting when Takuma Sato's starting up towards the front.
Yeah, I can still remember back in I want to say it was 2019 when they had the late race yellow. I forget who had the accident. I think it was Veach, Bourdais, Rahal, and a couple of other cars had the accident. Yep. That was when the Ferrucci cut the grass on in turn 3.
Yep.
I had a tweet because I was keeping notes of who was pitting and when. They were doing the last pit stops within the last 20 laps of the race, and Sato had the freshest tires of the top 5. And I can remember how many people were quote tweeting me saying, Sato's got the freshest tires, and there's 2 cars in front of him with a few extra laps than he does. Like, this is going to get crazy. And he finished 3rd by not very much. But yeah, Sato being up front, great job for him. One last thing about Rahal that I'll bring up before we get out of here. That they had a lot of changes that they made to that car. Graham mentioned that they went to a road course gearbox, which, like, I'm not sure how.
LT's been going through changes for like the last 51 weeks.
Yeah, and they switched rear uprights on the car. There's a lot that has to go on to try and fix that. I think I even remember them mentioning that they had like setup laser issues as well. Like, you talk about getting all the details right. This is a race where, like, if you are off by just a little bit on your preparation, it shows. Because, like, one of the first rules that you learn in racing is you cannot BS the stopwatch. No matter how hard you work, no matter who your sponsors are, who your drivers are, or how long you spent building your car, the stopwatch don't lie.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Graham was relieved to get in. Look, I feel for him and Marcus. Feel for Nolan, as you mentioned, it's going to be tough to win. I think from probably row 7 on back. I think last year Joseph was an anomaly, starting 18th.
Yeah, he did start 18th.
You look at the winners dating back to I think 16 with Rossi. He started 11th in that. Everybody else, you got to be in the top 12. It seems like. unless you're a Penske car with Joseph Newgarden and a late race restart and 3 red flags. But, this is a race that really favors the mature drivers. I think Joseph and Rossi have been the youngest 2 we've seen in the last 15 years. And again, Joseph in his 30s, and I think Rossi was 25 or 26 when he won the 500.
Sounds about right.
So we'll see. Practice tomorrow, practice Friday. A driver I'm going to be looking for this week is Elio Castroneves. He's really good in race trim. I was watching him on Thursday, been able to move his car around, but I've asked this to the drivers a bunch this week, and it's like, look, where can you pass? How can you pass? There wasn't any passing in Turn 3 and Turn 4 last year. What moves can you make? And I just think, obviously, as you know, you've got to be starting up towards the front in this one. But again, you've got Palou, Dixon, kind of starting mid-pack. Ed Carpenter, who's hungry to win this, starting mid-pack. Colton Herta's back there as well, kind of right in the middle of all of it. So first to win the race, you got to get through turn number 1, and we could see a lot of guys making bold moves early next week.
Thankfully, with Tony Kanaan not being in the race, we don't have to worry about him going around the outside of 7 cars.
Yeah. Miss you, Simon Pagenaud. Wish you were here, buddy.
Definitely. The race isn't the same without you. So, we love to see you at the track sometime. Just say hey, say hi, and we can't wait to see you next time, man. Who are you going to pick for, podium? Let's go for that right now. Or is it too early?
In any particular order?
No particular order.
I really, really like Alexander Rossi right now. I think he looks really good. Those cars have obviously raced towards the front here at IMS at the 500. Pato, a runner-up a couple years ago. Rossi finished 4th, I believe, last year. It's going to be really interesting to see what Palou can do. Was he 5th last year?
Yeah, I think Palou was 4th.
Yeah, 5th. McLaughlin, these Penske guys can control the entire race, and then it could be a shootout between them towards the end. I think McLaughlin's going to be right there. And again, I think a sexy pick right now is Will Power. We've kind of seen a resurgence of Will Power this year. It's crazy. I think the craziest stat of Will Power's career is he's never had an Indianapolis 500 pole.
Which is wild. Like, he's started on pole more times than any other driver in IndyCar history, yet the Indy 500 is the one that's eluded him the most. Like, granted, he started second in 2018 when he won, but this is a pretty big pole to win. It doesn't pay what it did years ago. You used to get a StarCraft van a long time ago. Hey, those old Indy 500 radio broadcasts make the time go by on road trips, but I digress. Your name is in the headlines for winning the pole, and for Scott McLaughlin, the second Kiwi to win the pole here after Scott Dixon. Obviously, a lot of media attention will be coming here from New Zealand. I'm not sure if they're going to get any more New Zealand writers over here. I know the credential deadline was several weeks ago, but still, it's a lot of attention for the race in New Zealand. Scotty Mack is a multi-time Supercars champion. He won their great race back in 2019 at Bathurst. He knows what it's like to be in a big event, and he's going to be leading the 33-car field to the green flag on May 26th.
Which number Indy 500 will this be for you?
This will be, let's see, this will be number 28 for me. 29 if we're counting 2020 as the when Doug Bowles had his Everybody's Streak Can Continue. But in 2028...
96 was your first?
96 was my first when I was 7 years old.
Yep.
So yeah, this will be my 28th, and then if you want to count when I was just a fetus, technically 29th back in 1988, but I digress. Yeah, this will be 28 for me in person. You?
31, I believe. 94 is the first. So. May or may not have been here in 2020. But yeah, 31 for me.
You didn't hear that.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
How far did you have to drive to get here, though, back then?
I grew up 2 hours from here, so you have me beat on the drive up, I'm sure.
Yeah, New Orleans is about 850 miles away. But, yeah, Mom and Dad will be coming up later on this week. Looking forward to it and seeing them again. That's going to be a fun trip for them. So
sounds good. I'm hungry, man.
All right, I'll get my podium picked real quick. I think Power's going to finish second, like he's done so many times this year. I think Rossi's going to be up there, and McLaughlin too. I will do one oddball pick. I think Felix is going to be in the top 5, and one more just for the heck of it. I think Larson's going to finish between around 7th or 8th.
Yeah, I'm in that as well. I'm interested to see what Ryan Hunter-Reay can do. He was a driver last year that didn't qualify as good as he probably wanted to, moved himself up to the field. Now he's starting up inside that that upper half, starting up towards the front in the first 4 rows. I think that's key. What a story it would be if Dry and Reinbold could finally break through here at the Indianapolis 500.
They are 50 for 50 for qualifying cars. They've never had a car get bumped from the starting field or fail to qualify.
Shout out Robbie Buell.
Hey, it works. All right, so once again, I'm Chris DeHarde. He's Tony Donohue. Frontstretch on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I think it's Frontstretch Open Wheel for YouTube. I think it's FS Open Wheel on Twitter.
Hey, it's Tony Donohue from Frontstretch.com. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and return to our channel for more racing content.